This is Dabu7. I want to talk about the nuclear situation here in this country for a second and a release that was just published yesterday in regards to all this. This was put out in Science magazine. This is focusing on the spent fuel that is at dozens of U.S. nuclear sites and the possibility of it being set alight, and that if it did, it would dwarf Fukushima. This is what they're stating, and what you're looking at here is Peach Bottom in Delta, Pennsylvania. This is a facility that has had a lot of red flags connected to it, and here recently there was an alert put out which they tried to downplay, as they always do, but Peach Bottom is just one facility. Now, I'm going to be focusing in here on the East Coast, but this is very interesting. They say that within 3 months, if something broke loose at a site like, they imagined a fire broke out at a place like Peach Bottom Nuclear Power Plant in Pennsylvania, and then it spread out. And where the wind and the weather would carry all of this, they state that areas from South Carolina all the way up into New England would be heavily covered in radiation. You can see these areas up here because the wind, the weather pushing this way, the jet stream, there's going to be high concentrations up in this area if that was to ever happen. You can see some of the other spots. And this is just honing in on this one situation. If a fire broke loose, and what's going to happen, where all the radiation is going to settle on the coast. Now, we're not taking into account the WIPP facility in New Mexico. We're not talking about Hanford and all of its issues on the West Coast. And that's going to play out different because the wind patterns are different. It's obviously anything that pops off there in Hanford, everything's going to continue to push to the east. Whether north or south, it's going to be going to the east as the weather pushes from east to west across the United States. And it varies. But primarily, it's going to push away from that coast. So the cities on the coastline of the West Coast wouldn't be in the same scenario as the cities on the East Coast that are downwind, constantly downwind from these areas. But things to think about, it's a lot of fallout. And I think it's just a question of when, not if. Because if you look at Hanford, man, they're using drums that were only designed for 20 years. And it's been 40. Some people are stepping up saying that what needs to happen is after 5 years of cooling, these need to be put into like storage containers that are dry, like dry vats, where there's just not these massive pools of radioactive sludge sitting there. Well, they looked into this and they deemed that it was too costly. It was too expensive to do it the right way. That's right. It's too expensive to do it the right way. Yet, if a disaster unfolded from this, you're talking trillions and trillions and years of cleanup, and it would be devastating, depending on where it went down. Now, at St. Louis, there's an underground fire burning, inching its way closer and closer toward contamination, radiation underground. That's another site. They're literally all over the United States. And it's really something that could pop off, whether by accident, natural disaster, or if it's targeted. I mean, some of these places are so old that it's just going to, eventually things are going to start to fall apart. And I believe that's what we've witnessed in the Hanford incident since the 60s. That stuff's been sitting there. And now we're seeing cave-ins and all types of stuff. But like we've seen in Hanford, don't expect for them to give you any bold statements on any big releases. And if you're someone that lives downwind from one of these sites, you look at these maps and these images, I would have a plan in terms of a situation like this happening down the road. In terms of having the right things I'll talk about this more in other videos. And also make sure to follow me on minds.com. I'll be uploading exclusive stuff over here. And for those that were asking, I never did get to the bottom of why this 8.4 quake was registered in Turkey. Still have no answer for that one. Also, make sure to tune in to Underground World News Live, 6 p.m. Eastern. Changing that from 8 p.m. to 6 p.m. So hopefully we can get Casey on here with us and see what's going on from France. So stay tuned for more. It's been Dabu7. Peace.